The architecture of peace. Arthur's days were measured by the heavy math of obligation. He was the provider, the keystone, the quiet pillar of everyone else's comfort. His worth was calculated in effort, his sleep in hours stolen from the next deadline. He moved through his life with an invisible, unforgiving weight across his shoulders, always pushing a little harder than he knew he should. He was a presence, a function, a necessary mechanism. They all expected him to simply show up, for the meeting, for the bill, for the crisis, but no one ever saw the quiet man behind the performance. The question, "How are you?" was always a formality, never an invitation to tell the truth. He felt intensely alone in his relentless effort. The exhaustion had been a low, continuous hum for months, slowly escalating into a vibration that shook his bones. He tried to push through, convincing himself that relief lay just beyond the next finished task, the next completed email. His body, however, was no longer listening to the promises of his mind. Then, one ordinary Tuesday morning, as he stood waiting for the kettle to boil, the invisible cord that tethered him to the routine snapped. It wasn't a sudden, violent break, but a soft, slow giving way. He slipped down onto the cool, simple geometry of the kitchen floor, and for a short while, the world went completely silent. The doctor's words were a demand, not a request. You must rest. Truly rest. The calendar cleared itself. The phone fell silent. At first, the sudden vacuum where the noise of expectation used to be was terrifying. It felt like failure, a vast, unsettling emptiness he didn't know how to fill. Slowly, tentatively, the quiet noticing began. It was a profound kind of archaeology. He rediscovered the sharp, earthy smell of coffee beans, savoring the aroma before the first sip, a moment he'd rushed past for decades. He heard the persistent, rhythmic drum of rain on the window pane, a sound that was suddenly comforting, not simply a background noise. He realized he had been waiting for them, for his work, his family, the world, to change their expectations, to finally see the cost of his effort. But the architecture of expectation was built by his own willingness to overextend. He saw with startling clarity that the only person capable of changing the equation was himself. Arthur learned a new essential word, no. It was not a weapon, but a protective boundary, spoken with quiet firmness. Saying it often brought a quick, familiar flare of guilt, but he learned to choose the quiet, enduring light of his own well-being over the temporary appeasement of others. Limits, he found, were not weaknesses. They were the definition of wisdom. He started showing up faithfully for Arthur. A quiet hour of reading, a walk without a specific destination, a dinner savored slowly without the interruption of a screen. He became his own dedicated provider of peace. Arthur still showed up for his life, but he walked into it lighter. He had learned that his dignity was not in how much he carried, but in knowing what he was finally allowed to put down. He carried only his share, leaving the rest on the ground, finding the simple, unburdened grace of a life that was finally, truly, his own.